Strategy is number one. If they don't have a proper strategy, it's not going to work. And then what happens if you don't have a proper strategy is you don't get ROI.
What happens when a professional chiropractor realizes that the secret to business growth isn't just treating patients, but building relationships through a microphone? Today we're joined by Dr. Jeremy Weisz, the co-founder of Rise 25 and a true pioneer in the podcasting space. Long before podcasting was cool, Jeremy was already bridging the gap between niche businesses and their dream clients. From law firms to software giants, he's helped hundreds of companies turn their podcasts into ROI machines. We're diving into the Dream 200 method and how a podcast can be the ultimate tool for high-level lead generation.
Those principles, 20% of the relationships result in 80% of the revenue. Who are those 20% of relationships that will equal 80% of the results?
This podcasting method for the businesses is a kind of helps us to unlock their bottleneck or overcome their challenges.
When I say Dream 200, it's really what are the small hinges that move large doors situation? Like who are those key relationships that lead to more amazing relationships? The first one you're going to do is not going to be as good as the second one. You just have to do it. You have to get reps. They go out and play and they suck and then they get better.
What is the real challenge or the toughest challenge for this entire podcasting process for the businesses? Welcome back to The Next Move with Venkat. Hey Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So I am a podcaster, but you are the creator of podcasters. So could you please start telling about how it all started?
Yeah. Rise 25, we help businesses launch and run podcasts. I never set out to start a company to launch and run podcasts. Studied biochemistry at Wisconsin and went on to chiropractic school. In chiropractic school, they don't teach you marketing and business. So I was going to marketing and business conferences and I stumbled across, this is probably in 2008-ish, stumbled across this thing. People weren't even calling it podcasts. It was a few people that were publishing interviews online that really combined everything I loved, which is learning. I get to learn from amazing entrepreneurs, founders, and that was the kind of the theme of my show at the time. I get to form amazing relationships. It could be for referral partnerships, clients, potential clients, and just authorities in different spaces. And so I started actually interviewing people and publishing online. And people started coming to me asking me to help them do that, right? And so I had a full-time practice. And so I had built up a virtual team around me to help with all of the different components and elements. And then people, when they were asking me, I said, you know what? Sure. I love it. So I had a weird schedule with, I would, maybe do podcasting related items. You could probably relate to this from 8 to 9 in the morning, then 9 to 12 see patients, and 12 to 2:30 or 3 do podcasting stuff, then 3 to 6:30 see patients, then 6:30 to 8 do podcasting stuff, and then again from 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. do whatever I needed to do. So that by accident turned into a separate business. People kept coming to me. Eventually I sold the chiropractic business and focused 100% on Rise 25 and helping people launch and run podcasts. So that's kind of how it came about.
Well, from chiropractor to podcaster and then podcaster creator. It is really, really amazing journey. So you've been doing the podcast and helping the businesses do the podcast even before they are cool. Like they are not even this much of bigger when you started doing this type of podcast. What it used to be then and what is it now? What are the changes you're observing?
Yeah, I mean, we don't really focus on true crime podcasts or comedy podcasts or sports podcasts. So, really we help businesses, actual businesses, be the authority in their space and connect with the amazing people in the space. So I think podcasts as a whole has gotten larger and more popular and obviously mainstream. But I think those mainstream type of podcasts are more those type of, like for instance, those type of crime shows or comedy show podcasts or those kind of things. So the ones that we serve can be pretty niche, like anywhere from like a law firm doing a podcast to a pest control company to a podcast to a software company. So it's not really a mainstream type of medium. If someone's in, let's say that they have a software for customer support, well, they're about customer happiness podcasts. There's only usually other founders and entrepreneurs who are interested in those type of episodes. It's not, the shows that we produce are not going to be like in the top 100 of Apple podcasts or anything like that. But I mean, I have seen lots of changes in the industry, of course, because after COVID hit, people were trying to connect with others through trade shows, conference, what they were normally going to trade shows, conferences, and other things in person, and they found themselves not able to. And so a lot of people we were forced to go over via Zoom or whatever people used for virtual meetings. And then people all of a sudden realize, you know what, this is a pretty efficient way of connecting with other people, right? And so there was at least we saw a big influx of people coming to us asking, hey, how do I connect with other people virtually? And we're like, well, we've been doing this for like a decade, so it's not that hard, right? So I've seen people change, budgets, from what used to be conferences, trade shows to, great, we could actually have a podcast, sit in the comfort of our own office, not have to travel as much. So I've seen that. But, and just obviously listenership in general has increased because more people are aware of podcasts, where back 10 years ago, people didn't know what a podcast was. I mean, some people did, but not tons like it is today.
Yeah, got it. And I really like the way how you are doing these podcasts and how you are helping the businesses, especially for the lead generation. So can you please elaborate on that process?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about building relationships. The things that I focus in on is about building relationships. And podcast is one way, I look at ways to give to my network of people. One way is to feature the companies I most admire and share with the world what they're working on my podcast. Another way is, we have a gifting program. We send gifts to people, and that's, again, it's about building relationships. Sometimes we'll do clips or snippets of that podcast episode, post them on social media. It's building relationships. It's a one-to-many. I'm really looking at giving the relationship of the person I'm having on, and it gives them a marketing asset that they can share about them and their company. So the word spreads organically as far as that goes. So that's kind of the fundamental premise behind why we do things at Rise 25, is like, we just try and build great relationships. And it could be having a podcast, sending them a gift, featuring in social media. We have a physical newsletter that we send out to people. It could be featuring an insert of that person in the physical newsletter. It could be introducing them to another podcast that we run. This, we don't have any monetary exchange there. I was just on a private equity networking meeting, and there were a couple people. I'm like, oh, you know what? I think there's a show that we run that you'd be a great fit for. Why don't I make an introduction to the two of you? So there's lots of ways. If someone doesn't want to start a podcast, which I think obviously if you have a business, you have a podcast, right? So it's great to meet people, get to know people, but there's lots of ways to give to other individuals.
Yeah, I really got it. Yeah, it is really amazing. Even for me, as you said, like, I'm doing these podcasts, and it really gives us the opportunity, and it really opens the gate mainly to collaborate with the founders and leaders in the industry. And it is a kind of win-win situation for both of the parties here.
Yeah.
So they'll get the online visibility, and we'll build the relationships with the business. So I would say it is really an amazing thing. Yeah. And on your website, you mentions a lot about the Dream 200 method. Like, why exactly the Dream 200, or not to go with the massive email campaign or something like that? Why exactly the Dream 200?
Yeah, I mean, when I say Dream 200, some people think of it as just clients, like potential clients. We think of it as, it could be potential clients, it could be strategic partners and referral partners. It could be big authorities in a specific industry. So that's what I'm thinking of when Dream 200. And it's really, what are the small hinges that move large doors situation? Like, who are those like key relationships that lead to more amazing relationships, right? And so when I think of that, and this is kind of the first step when we're working with someone in general, is like, we want to build out a Dream 200 with them. And most people want to go to the coldest of cold. They want to go to people they don't know, like, oh, this person's great in the industry. And we like to start with the people who already know, like, and trust someone. And that's kind of the boring stuff that works, right? If I'm a big fan of 80/20, Perry Marshall has a book called 80/20 Sales and Marketing. Richard Koch has a book, 80/20. And it's really, Pareto's principle is 20% of the, relationships result in 80% of the revenue. I mean, you can use 80/20 for pretty much anything. And so when we think of who are those 20% of relationships that will, equal 80% of the results, and that's usually the people we already know and not someone who we don't know. So we like to start there. And then, when we get into the cold piece, we kind of categorize it so people can use it and think about different things, right? So from the Dream 200 cold, it could be categorized into, let's say, services or items that your customer uses already, right? So like, let's say someone is in e-commerce and they, write emails for an e-commerce brand. Well, there is a Shopify, other services or software that company uses. They may use a Shopify plugin or something like that for their e-commerce store that may have 10,000 customers who are also e-commerce founders. So they have a shared type of client, right? And so that'd be one example. And there's many examples of kind of the categories we look at when it comes to that dream from the cold approach and who we look at. It could be, people, it's a one-to-many, people who run conferences in a certain space, right? So, we help a lot of software companies launch their podcast. There's lots of software conferences out there. SaaStr is one of them, one of the major ones. We just went to, John, my business partner, just went to Inbound, which is put on by HubSpot, tracks a lot of different software companies. Those are some ways to think about branching out and forming great relationships and partnerships with other companies that we share similar customers.
Yeah, got it. And in your opinion, like, where do most business nowadays goes in a wrong direction when it comes to launching their podcast without having a proper strategic framework?
Yeah, I mean, that's you said it. There's no strategy or framework. They just whoever they think is good, they'll do it. I mean, honestly, a big mistake is I've seen people they try and do it all themselves, and what happens with that is they quit doing it because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And besides the strategy piece, the strategy is number one. If they don't have a proper strategy, it's not going to work. And then what happens if you don't have a proper strategy is you don't get ROI. And when you don't get ROI, like, why am I spending all this time, energy, and money doing this when it's a lot of work? So it kind of goes back to the creating the Dream 200 and the strategy piece. Because if that's not in place, it's not gonna make sense for their business. I mean, I'm qualifying that with, I'm talking about podcasts who have an actual business behind it. I'm not talking about gaining viewership, listenership with, if someone has like a sports podcast and they're trying to sell ads, right? The monetization model for a business who has a podcast is their own business, right? So the biggest mistake is not getting ROI, not focusing on the ROI activities. When I'm talking to someone about their podcast, I'm thinking, if they ask me a question, my first thought is this going to produce does this have a chance of producing ROI or not? And ROI doesn't have to mean getting a client or customer. It could be a referral relationship. It could be saving time, through an episode. So that's my first question is this going to produce someone ROI or not?
Yeah, got it. And as you said, like, most of the people give up because it needs for them to involve and put in so much of efforts. And few people think like this kind of expands the sales cycle. So if anyone have this type of mindset, what is the kind of suggestion you could
Which
provide to
mindset?
them? To put in a lot of efforts to improve their relationships using the podcast method, even for the lead generation, even for the sales processes.
Yeah, that is a good mindset to have. I mean, I think too, a lot of people just don't get started because they let certain things freeze them from starting. It could be, I've seen it over and over again. It could be simple as like, well, I'm not sure what, they focus on all the things like, what microphone should I buy? What technology should I use? And I'm like, just choose something on it. Go to Amazon, choose the best thing with the best review. I mean, people are like trying to figure out the perfect setup. I mean, I remember when I first started, I didn't even have a name for my podcast. for the first 6 months. So if someone comes on, I'd be like, welcome to the podcast. I didn't have a name because people will be like, I just got to come up with the perfect name. So they'll find all these things that will hinder them from starting in the first place. Right.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, what you were saying about the mindset is right. I mean, I look at a way to build amazing relationships and give to relationships. That's the mindset I go in to the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, I get your point. What you're saying about the perfectionism mindset doesn't really allow you to at least get started with what you really want to do. In other words, we would say like analysis paralysis.
Yeah,
kind
exactly.
of a thing.
Yeah, I mean, like a Blue Yeti mic. You have my other office. It's like $150. This one's an ATR 2100. I think they have a newer model. It's $100. Right? It plugs in the back of your computer, and you're going.
Yeah, that's good. And this podcasting method for the businesses is a kind of helps us to unlock their bottleneck or overcome their challenges. But in your opinion, so what is the real challenge or the toughest challenge for this entire podcasting process for the businesses?
I mean, the biggest challenge is, I believe just making sure that they're reaching out. So after you create the Dream 200, the next step is to reach out, right? Obviously. So we've created this whole plan, and then sometimes it's pulling teeth getting them to reach out to people. Well, they have all these, I don't know if people are going to say yes to this. I'm not sure. I've not done enough. I mean, there's so many excuses, right? I'm like, you've known this person for 10 years. They're not going to say no. Just text them, right? And so it's a mindset of just reaching out next, and so people will kind of get halted with even starting it. Then they could get halted with reaching out or doing activities that don't make sense, right? And so that's the next step. And the next step is, well, now I don't want to do it unless I create this like amazing content. Like, how do I create amazing content? So we have to go over elements of how to create great content to get people over that hump of, I go, listen, the first one you're going to do is not going to be as good as the second one, is not going to be as good as your 100th one, not going to be as good as your 1,000th one. So you just have to do it. You have to get reps. Right? If someone's trying to play soccer or basketball or some sport, they're not like studying it for you. They go out and play and they suck and then they get better. Well, it's the same thing with this. Sometimes I just be like, you just have to get reps, right? That's the only way to get better. So just doing them, right? So people get stuck on that as well. Because they're worried about, we're all worried about how we sound, how we are people going to like it. And at some point we just have to be like, just do it. And some of it's going to suck. Some of it will be good. And we'll just improve what we can.
You will learn it, whatever in the process, obviously.
Yeah.
Got it. And let's talk about the big thing, AI. So how you are integrating AI into your business? Is there any particular operations or any particular tools you are using in your workflows?
Yeah, I feel like AI is being built into tools that we already use, right? For one, I'm a big on productivity. So I'm trying to be as productive as I can. And I spend a lot, I don't even know, I probably get 500 or 1,000 emails a day or something like that. So I'm looking at, again, 80-20. What are the activities, if I can optimize them, would make a big difference for me? And so for my email, I use a combination of Whisperflow. I don't know if you use Whisperflow and Gemini. With Whisperflow, they have a free version if anyone's listening to this, where it's a desktop app, and you can, I use it on my computer, not my phone, because I have like a microphone thing on my phone. I don't need it, but you can click it and dictate. And then obviously we can speak a lot faster than we can type. So it allows you to dictate into social media or into an email or into wherever you are in the computer. And then Gemini, I could dictate in the Gemini on, you use G Suite products. And then it basically cleans up my dictation and gives me at least a working version of the email that I can edit. Right. And so I use that a lot, Whisperflow and Gemini. I'm always using as like a thought agent, ChatGPT, of course. Like if I'm thinking something through, I'll just talk into ChatGPT and ask for what they think. Doesn't matter what it is. And then we use different tools. We're big on project management tools. We're big in ClickUp, and ClickUp has some features in there. We use Slack, of course. for internal communication. We use, LastPass from like a password tool. A lot of these tools are starting to build in AI. We use Sweet Process for our SOPs. And again, they have these AI, starting to build AI into Active Campaign for our email sending and for our pipeline. Again, they built in AI into these softwares that we already use. So it makes it nice.
Do you suggest using any type of automations for the lead generation or even for the marketing campaigns for you or for your clients?
Lead generation. I mean, we do a lot of cold emailing for ourselves and our clients. But I don't know when you say marketing campaigns. I mean, we're using Active Campaign, right? To send out emails so people subscribe. Obviously, there's automations that happen there. But I'm trying to think of other automations. I mean, really from a reach out perspective, when we have a deals pipeline or referral deals pipeline and a client deals pipeline in Active Campaign, and that's pretty manual. We have a meeting 3 days a week to go over that, and we're going in. We're not automating that. We're not like, hey, put them in the sequence and send them a message. Like those people, we're corresponding with either. We have one person that leads that meeting. There may be 4 of us on it, and then let's say, if we look at our referral partners who are great referral partners, and I want to make sure I'm keeping in touch. And the messages are not, they're just like, they're very conversational. They're not about selling anything, really. They're just like, what are you working on? How can I help? What do and those type of messages. And we'll set something for the future, right? So if I have a meeting today in Active Campaign, we'll go, the person who leads it, like Jeremy, reach out to Ian Garlic. Ian Garlic's a good friend, but I want to make sure I keep in touch with them. And then I'll send him a text. Hey, Ian, what's up? And then he's like, when do you want to set up for the future? So we set a task for 3 months from now or whatever I say. So it's not, there is a process, but that reach out is not, we don't have it on autopilot.
Is there any particular reason you don't want to kind of build any type of automations around this?
I mean, we have, like, if someone subscribes to our email sequence, there's automations there, but like from a personal relationship standpoint, it's just, it's personalized to the, to that individual. Yeah. And it also may be on different mediums. It may not be on just email, even though we're an Active Campaign. It may be on text. It may be, maybe I have a LinkedIn thread with them. I've gone in, I'm like, wait, I don't have an email. Oh, this is a Facebook thread, right? And so it's cross-channel. So that's why. But, the most important relationship, again, it's 80-20. If the most important relationship, I'm not talking about doing this. I think, have had up to 85,000 people on our email list. I'm not reaching out to 85,000, but like, again, even if we look at 95.5 or 1090, it's still a lot of people, right? 10% of that's 8,500 people. But over the course of a year, and out of that 8,500, who's the most important 300 people they want to keep in touch with, right? Even if I message each of them one person a day, or 2 people a day, right? That's 600 people. So, but we're looking at the most important, not just volume.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, it was wonderful sharing that. And if we talk about the future, so you've been in the industry for a very long time, and you're already doing so many amazing things. So, what is your next move, especially for the 2026?
Yeah, I mean, with us, it's just, we always think of how we continuously serve the client and get them the best result. We've added things over the years, for any business, we're surveying them, like, what's friction points? You're a systems person. Like, what are the friction points in the process? What's the friction points in their business? And how can we help solve some of those friction points, right? And like I mentioned, like each of those things, we have a meeting once a week, and this is what we talk about. Like, what are the friction points any of the clients are talking about, right? And, some of those friction points, like I mentioned, which is just doing outreach. Okay, so now we assign them a business development strategist to make sure to get on with them and make sure that happens, right? So each of these things, we try and put a system in place for each of those friction points. So that's what we're focused in on, is just client success, client happiness, because if that happens, then everything else falls into place.
Yeah, got it. And before we wrap up the episode, if you could share one suggestion for the people out there who really wants to start the podcast, especially for the business, to build their business and brand around it, what it could be?
As one solution?
One suggestion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the suggestion would be you don't have to start in a complicated fashion. Start with the people you know. All right. I mean, we all have access to, if you're listening to this, you probably have access to a computer, imagine. Even if you don't, you have access to a phone, right? And the technology is crazy, right? You really just need your phone even, right? So I always just say, just have a profile someone else on your social, profile someone else on YouTube, profile someone else wherever you are. You could always profile someone else and what they're working on and what you admire about them. So
yeah, really amazing. Yep. Thank you, Jeremy, for joining the show and sharing your valuable insights. Especially, I feel like for most of the audience out there, it feels like a new, completely a new vertical for their business, whether it is to build the relationships or even to use this podcasting tool to build the brand around it. It is completely feels like really amazing insights for them, especially those who is really kind of starting in their early stages of their building businesses. So yeah, I really appreciate taking your time and sharing all the insights and your wisdom. And yeah, before we leave, if anyone wants to find you out, they can check out for you.
Yeah, just go to rise25.com to learn more. We have some videos. Inspiredinsider.com is my podcast. And we have, we produced an episode for every question we've gotten on there. So it's like, how do I name my podcast? There's an episode. What software and tools do I use? We have an episode for that. What are the best B2B? How do I launch a B2B podcast? We have an episode for that. So we give everything away for free. And obviously, if someone doesn't want to do all the back end work, then we can help them. But all those episodes are free on inspiredinsider.com.
Yeah, I've gone through some of them. They are really amazing, I would say.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Jeremy, for your time. And if you really enjoy this episode, and please give it a like and share it with the people who really enjoy this type of content. And I'll see you on the another episode. Thank you, Jeremy.